Hmm. TTC, I'm Dolphignition, back at you with another hate week. Now, seeing how I'm recording on the night of winter solstice, the longest night of the year, and we're going up against a team of equal potential who faced just about the same ups and downs as we had, I figured let's completely break down the differences between our teams as we go over each and every one of our games this season. Starting with Week 1. My team lost to the Patriots 11-21. Cam Newton starts fresh with the ball, rushed 15 times for 75 yards. Most carries and rush yards in a Patriots quarterback in a Belichick era since 2000, and things looked positive for New England in the early start of the season. A different story compared to the Fitzpatrick-led Dolphins, though Fitzpatrick did his best and Ahmed looking promising. Your team beat the Panthers 34-30 as your offensive line did a great job at creating running lanes for Josh Jacobs to gash the Panthers 93 yards on 25 carries, and then of course Carr 22 of 30 for 239 yards with a touchdown as the cherry on top. On to Week 2. My team lost to the Bills at our house 28-31. Our last opponents this season, Fitzpatrick, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tight end Gesicki caught 8 balls for 130 yards. Parker had 5 receptions for 53 yards. Good day, but then crucial turnovers on downs in the third quarter from the Bills' 1-yard line wrecked our mojo to where they made a statement that they were no longer going to be pushed around, and that final failed onside kick was where they rested their case. Your team, at your house, beat the Saints 34-24. And yes, with 3 touchdowns and 28 for 38 for 282 without any picks, this was Carr's shining moment in Sin City. Daniel Carlson got 4 PATs and 2 field goals, one that iced the game with 52 yards away. Zay Jones' touchdown cast at the 1 minute and 44 second marker was also what happened. Darren Waller, 12 catches for 103 yards, a touchdown, and his impressive performance on the Saints' offense proved to be quite the Sith worthy of defending the Death Star. On to Week 3. My team scores their first win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, icing their thoughts of ever thinking they had potential just because they beat the Colts 31, as the final score was 31-13, ending our 38-game drought of winning a difference higher than 10 points, as Gesicki, Gaskin, and especially Fitzpatrick was on fire, shutting down the men in the turquoise, gold, and black at their house, with only James Robinson being their only impressive player on our opposing side. Your team now scores their first loss, and it's against the Patriots, 20-36. J.J. Taylor, Sony Michel, and Rex Burkhead sure gave you guys problems, and Cam, accounting for 95% of the yards, was just too overwhelming. Obviously, going into the middle season, Gruden had his work cut out for him to learn to work better at combating against teams with good pass rushes. Week 4. My team loses to the Seahawks at our house 23-31. Xavier Howard returns from injury, kept Russell Wilson's men at bay with an interception, and cut off in front of Metcalf. However, from start to finish, the Seahawks were ahead of us, and it just wasn't enough against Russell Wilson's impressive pass throws. At that point, I was perturbed at how our defense played at that point in the season. Your team also lost, but to the Buffalo Bills, 23-30. Though you guys converted 14 third down attempts, created 400 yards of total offense, and were flawless on the field goal attempts, the Allen Diggs connection was just too much of a force to be reckoned with. All of a sudden took you from being a team with promising results of this entire season to becoming a .500 rate team in your division. Must be frustrating to be in a division with the almighty Chiefs, right? Well, the week after you showed us wrong. Week 5. This time, I'll start with you guys. You guys won 40-32. You gave Mahomes his first loss. And as of right now, his only loss this season. Your defense limited Kansas City offense to 3 points over 6 consecutive possessions to flip the game into their favor, followed by an interception. And from there on, you showed that no matter how good one team can be, divisional rivalry rots will always be inevitable. I guess I could say the kingdom sure as hell got quite the rug burn. I'm talking about Harry Rugg. 3 targets, 2 catches, 118 yards, 72 and 46 yards completion, and a touchdown is enough to show Henry being quite the threat to our team. Meanwhile, uncertain of what will happen as I chickened out in the opportunity to make a hate week, as I'm still a rookie in this process of the TTC, I wasn't sure poking at the Niner Empire would be a wise move, as I wasn't completely confident in my team. I even turned down a bet from CG Bully Dog. A missed opportunity I'd later regret, as we fucking crushed them at their house on a beautiful day, 43-17. If Nick Mullins' lackluster performance against the Eagles was enough of an argument to make the fans of the red and gold feel Garoppolo was more needed, Garoppolo's twice as bad performance, to where CJ Beathard had to step in against us, could be where the case in the bay rests. A lesson learned. When we got Preston Williams, Mike Gesicki, Devontae Parker, and a former member of our own opponent on our side, it just spells out a W. But a difference in points like that was one even I didn't expect, and I was sure as hell happy for. It was the first game I could ever remember where I decided I'd stop watching the game after halftime, and it ended up being a good move on my part, as not much else happened in the second half. On to week 6. First time after 6 years we finished the game a complete blowout. Miami 24, Jets 0. First time Tua played, but Fitzpatrick's performance throughout the entire game outshines his garbage time snaps. 18 of 27 passes for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. Not like bragging about that matters when you're going against any team led by Gase. And for you guys, oh wait, that's right, week 6 was your bye week. So, on to week 7. Oh wait, that was our bye week too. Regularly, it would have been week 11, but due to the pandemic, it came earlier than planned. Meanwhile, you guys lost to Tampa Bay 20-45. Now, normally when we talk about games with Tampa Bay, the first thing everybody in the world usually talks about is Tom Brady. However, because I hate his fucking guts, I'm going to steer away from that and talk about what came out of you guys in that game instead. Carr took a brutal hit from Devin White, and both Sam Young and Gabe Jackson exits the game with an injury and an ejection, which completely ruined the balance in your offense and rushing. Tough. Only 76 yards were finished on the ground game. Week 8. Both bye weeks are done. This was our first game in which Tua was announced to start. And both the media and the world was nervous about this, considering we all knew what happened after Carson Wentz's dynamite year in the 2017-2018 Philadelphia Eagles season that came to an end with Aaron Donald being one of the most feared defensive tackles, was who we're going against. And with everybody still skeptical about Tua's health, we all thought this would be a case where my Dolphins would go back to the drawing board. What ended up happening instead was our defense rising to the occasion like never before. With a barrage of blitzes, we delivered to Jared Goff 2 touchdowns from the defensive side, 78-yard fumble return from Andrew Van Ginkel, and an 88-yard punt return by Jakeem Grant, and Tua throws his first touchdown pass to Devontae Parker and caught it amazingly after being hammered by David Long. Sure, it was 3 yards, but still, quite the highlight. You guys out-edged the Browns 16-6. Now, in the past, that doesn't sound impressive. But if there's one thing we find good about this shit of a year of 2020, this is a noteworthy accomplishment, as the Browns have proven to be a really great team this year, as they are already one of the wild card contentions, and they rightfully deserve so. But as far as you guys go, you battled not only Baker Mayfield, but Mother Nature as well. Josh Jacobs rushed for 31 times for 128 yards, and Devontae Booker added 5 rushes for 29 yards and 1 reception for 17. You guys rushed 4.6 yards per carry, constantly created running lanes, and surged up, rarely going down on first contact, all while simply bullying Cleveland, catching a stroke on a luck of replay review, and punctuated its grinded-out win with a hard hit on Landry that jarred the ball from his grasp in the end zone, forcing a field goal attempt that was also hijacked by the winds, being the final nail in the coffin. All while you guys battled nearly freezing temperatures of a mixture of rain and ice and wind gusts of nearly 40 miles per hour. I've been to Las Vegas. To go from a place in the USA that usually reaches temperatures of 100 degrees Fahrenheit and above to tackling that type of weather is impressive. And it's proof that there are indeed stormtroopers ready for anything to defend the Death Star. On to week 9. If we don't end up making the playoffs this year, one could argue that unlike our recent win against the Patriots, this game was indeed our Super Bowl. Tua Tagovailoa versus Kyler Murray would prove to be a hype matchup, though arguably Kyler Murray was the better performer, as he led the Cardinals with 11 rushing attempts for 106 yards and a touchdown to go along with his 283 passing yards and 3 additional scores. He weaved his way through our defense with his threatening speed, converted 2 fourth-down runs on his side of the 50-yard line, and dropped beautiful deep bombs to Christian Kirk, a man we unsuccessfully covered that Sunday. Tua, with the help from Parker and Williams, completed 20 of 28 passes for 248 yards. But in the end of it all, the handoff to Chase Edmonds on Arizona's 4th down try was stuffed, and that followed with our flawless kicker, Jason Sanders, to finish the game. A job Zane Gonzalez failed at doing would be the ultimate downfall for the Cardinals, as his kick was just not far enough. Final score, Arizona 31, Miami 34. You guys, on the other hand, beat the Chargers 31-26 in your first meet against them. Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker combining for 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Derek Carr continued piloting the Death Star, sacrificing his own safety to dive for extra yards. And though they had struggles with the latter and their third down conversion rate was iffy, Carr proved he had what it takes to accomplish the task of those conversions and thus getting the W against an amazing pilot, Justin Herbert, and an awfully designed star. Though you guys handed Los Angeles 3 points with an untimely fumble, a satisfying different story could be said on your defensive side. Now, on to Week 10. It was our turn to battle the Chargers this time, and boy oh boy, our defense gave Justin Herbert an unfriendly welcome. Granted, this was not Tua's best game as we led the game 21-0. But then, before halftime, the lead was cut in half. After a bad snap, Tua couldn't handle. In the second half, Xavier Howard intercepted Justin Herbert, and a blocked punt led to an early score as our team proved better all around. Jason Sanders also continues to impress as 3 field goals were the final nails in the coffin to secure our win 29-21. Though Brian Flores is usually in the spotlight in the realm of credit, and rightfully so, Chan Gailey deserves a big praise as he prepped Tua fantastically well, flashing elite accuracy and fearlessness, and though some of his passes into tight windows were fortunate not to go the other way, he showed he's not afraid to make those plays, and that's what separates rookies from rising stars. One last credit to this win goes to Salvon Ahmad, gaining 85 yards and a touchdown on 23 carries. As for the Chargers, if many people say Justin Herbert should have been our choice for our quarterback instead of Tua, allow this game to shut those haters up. This was quite his worst performance. Meanwhile, this was your first meet against another divisional rival, the Denver Broncos. Pass attack was lackluster. The realization of your struggle to first turnovers finally reached the spotlight as one of NFL's worst 5 takeaways. Still, you achieved the big marginal win, 37-12, as once again, Josh Jacobs and Devontae Booker proved to be capable on carrying the Las Vegas offense. Jacobs did early damage while Booker salted much of the clock in the fourth quarter, combining for 193 yards and 4 touchdowns on 35 carries. You intercepted Drew Lock 4 times, and your safety, Jeff Heath, came up with 2 picks, one of them in the end zone just before the half that gave Las Vegas that sweet, sweet momentum. Anything else? Oh yes, Nick Kwiatkowski's, if I pronounced that name right, epic one-handed interception to close out Lock. You guys made defeating Denver look so easy, so we'd all assume Miami would go to the same, right? Week 11 showed that was just not the case for us. Remember in the early parts of the season where I'd criticize the defense while the offense was nothing to criticize about? Now, things turn for the opposite. At this point in Denver's season, the game for them was either do or die, and sure enough, it was a legit loss for Tua, and they did indeed keep their playoff hopes alive at that point. It ended up dying later on in the season, but any given Sunday was any given Sunday. And we were the victims of that against the Broncos. Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon combined for 166 yards on 31 totes. Though their ground game was what summarized their win in a nutshell, I could argue two words that I'd say otherwise. Justin Simmons. Denver safety. He compiled 7 tackles, 2 passes defended, and accomplished the game-sealing pick from Fitzpatrick. Yes, I said it. Fitzpatrick. Our coach benched Tua after his awful performance that game. That pick was intended for Devontae Parker, in which many of us questioned why he didn't just fucking rush up, as it was a blatant interception beginning to happen. Begging to happen. Though many can say Fitz costed us that game, he did his best when he showed up before that point. A different story from what I could say about our O-line and their failure to protect Tua throughout most of that game. But Tua arguably shares a good chunk of the blame, with just 11 of 20 passes for 83 yards. Whack. 4.2 yards attempt. Nearly threw an interception until his first attempted touchdown came short, followed by an actual interception. Yeah. Meanwhile, in this week 11, your loss this week was less critical. Even though it was a Red Dead Redemption from the Chiefs' Kingdom, winning it against y'all 35-31, you still looked fantastic to a point where if we needed to figure out a way to defeat Kansas City, studying how you guys played against them would be the way to go. Mahomes was 14. Check out these differences in the quarterbacks. Mahomes was 14 for 21 for 145 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Carr was 13 of 16 for 183 yards, a touchdown, and no interceptions the first half. Second half, Mahomes was 34 for 45 for 348 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception with a 102.8 rating. Mahomes threw a rare interception and a red zone pick. Carr completed 3 touchdowns, 275 yards on 23 of 31 passing, an 119.7 rating, and only 1 interception. Most of Carr's incompletions were on balls he was throwing away or were dropped as he managed a 12-play, 75-yard go-ahead drive that ended with a touchdown throw to Jason Witten. However, 1 minute and 43 seconds proving to be too much time for Mahomes to take the game back in his hands would end up being the final nail in the coffin for the Red Ranger to find the weak spot to blow up the Death Star in an agonizing, albeit humble, defeat. Now, on to week 12. Second meeting of the Jets. Supposedly, Darnold had better weapons this game, in which we thought promises were going to come to shock the world. Until we won 20-3, and I'm not going to go into further detail on that. But then came the big question of how you guys went from looking so amazing against the Chiefs to looking absolutely terrible against a team that is known to choke away games. The answer to that was a change in management, Raheem Morris, and a bigger change in mojo. Derek Carr fumbling like no tomorrow. In the city that's too busy to hate, every Raider fan must have hated this. Pick 6, 3 lost fumbles, matching his season total of interceptions before Sunday. Final score, Atlanta Falcons 43, Raiders 6. I would imagine I'd get a previous season flashbacks watching you guys play from a Dolphins point of view. Now, hold on. On to week 13. I could say we were lucky this week as Joe Burrow was out for the season the game before ours. Brian Allen's led Bengals led a balanced attack of 14 pass attempts and 13. Sorry, it's really late. And 13 rushes in the first 2 quarters, completed 9 passes for 137 yards and a career-best 72-yard catch-and-run touchdown for Boyd in the first minutes of the game. Impressive beginning, but a tragically different story in the second half, as 3 straight 3-and-outs, 2 of which being following sacks, stymied their momentum, 5 sacks to where Allen had to exit the game, and Ryan Finley would step in to where Allen had to exit the game, and Ryan Finley would step in only to get sacked by former Patriot Kyle Van Noy on his second snap, and a 4th punt following the game-sealing interception. Xavier Howard and Nick Needham tallied 2 picks and a season-high 6 sacks, while holding the Bengals to 196 total yards, the lowest of any opponent this season. As for you guys this week, just when you thought after last week things would get better, it got bittersweet. You won against the Jets. But the score 31-28 is where the red flags are starting to wave for you guys. Jets could have almost won that game had it not been for Ruggs' game-winning touchdown. And before that, bad drop resulting in an early Jets interception, a 4th quarter fumble that allowed the Jets to gain a late lead, and Carr's stats, 28 of 47, 381 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, was littered with several underthrows and overthrows. Yikes. Week 14. Now is our turn to face the Chiefs. Allow me to go ahead and mention the final score. Miami 27, Kansas City 33. So what impressive stunts did we pull against them? For starters, Mahomes threw for not 1, not 2, but 3 interceptions. And though the difference was too much for us in the 4th quarter, our fight to get back in the game made Kansas City sweat like hell. Tagovailoa gained quite the knowledge and was ready for next week to see if he's ready for Belichick or if he becomes rookie quarterback victim number 21. On to you guys. So, first you get destroyed by the Falcons. Then you nearly lose to the Jets. And now you get crushed by the Colts, 27-44. Kenny Moore's interception was soul-crushing, and soon things would get worse in the second half as it resulted 20-14 halftime. Center Ryan Kelly and left guard Quentin Nelson proved to be quite the duo of disaster for you guys. And now, hold on. Hold up. Aha. Here we go with our last week, week 15. Both of us battling divisional rivals. Let's start with you guys. Just when you thought you could get a break against just when you thought you could get a break as you battled Justin Herbert, you collect yet another loss, 27-30 overtime. I even picked you guys to win that game, and I'm battling against you guys at that point. Thursday Night Football. Enter Marcus Mariota. Exit Derek Carr after a groin injury. Your old defensive coordinator. Greg Olsen, offense coordinator, absent due to being tested positive. With many injuries, positive tests, and your defense performing so awfully, we expect an ugly picture. While extending plays with his legs and troubled the Bolts as he completed 17 of 28 passes for 226 yards and a touchdown while invigorating the rushing attack with a game-high 88 yards on 9 carries, Mariota piloted the Death Star from a 24-17 deficit. His 2-yard scoring run in the fourth quarter, leading to overtime, and Daniel Carlson executed the field goal. As for us, it was one of the most scariest games I ever witnessed. I'll go ahead and say it right now. I was certainly going to give up this season if we allowed this bum-ass Patriots team to sweep us. And thankfully, that wasn't the case. We held the Patriots under 200 yards through the air and put the clamps in on third down, allowing New England to convert just 2 of 9 attempts. It was indeed a grind game roller coaster of emotions, as the game contained so many penalties against us that ruined our mojo about 3 times, Brian Flores making questionable challenges, one of which where we ended up having to continue the rest of the 2-minute warning with no timeouts, and our men struggling just to tackle Cam. To make matters worse, no Gesicki, no Howard, no Grant, nor Gaskin were present this game. And yet, in the end, we grinded through as we ran the ball relentlessly with Salvin Ahmed ripping up 122 yards, scoring once on 23 carries, and Matt Breida taking 12 totes for 86 yards as he sprinted through New England's defense successfully. We beat the Patriots 22-12, and for the first time since 2008, sealed their chances of making the playoffs. And now, here we are. Week 16. Two teams almost equal in potential, both battling for a chance in the playoffs. You guys have to win this against us. Otherwise, well, you saw what happened after Luke Skywalker made that perfect shot in the end of Chapter 4. So, to Ash Raider, Raider Cousin, Pistol, 21 Third, and the rest of the black hole in the Raiders Nation, you want that spot? Come and get it. Because unlike the last 3 decades, these Dolphins are no longer a laughing matter. We've beaten Mariota before, and we can beat him again. My question to you citizens of Las Vegas is, are you feeling lucky, punks? Better hope Carr's groin gets healed. This is Dolphignition. Fins up. The battle for the wild card spot. May the better team win.